I'm sitting here with Joe Debney today. He's over from the YMCA, and he's going to share with us about the community and all the events that they have coming up this spring. All right, Joe, so I got a chance to kind of deep dive into your world a little bit and learn some more about you. And here's what I've learned is that you're very relationship focused in family and in community. So I want to kind of dive into that a little bit. And what builds a good relationship with your friends or with family? Either one.
So you deep dive on the social media and all that stuff. That's not how you build those relationships.
Yeah.
This, like being across from each other, talking and getting to know each other is really where it is. I really despise like texting or emailing. I want to walk and see that person, grab a cup of coffee and just have that conversation and get to know that person on a deeper level than you can through social media or text or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And social media connects us. We get a little bit of a snapshot, but you're right, those intimate conversations and getting to spend time with somebody. And we have to be very intentional about doing that.
Yeah, and you said that intentional, I think, is a key word, because if you don't make that intentional process in your life, you just miss it completely. And life is so quick. Everything, especially COVID, there's a silver lining for COVID, right? It slowed us down. So it made us be more intentional. Well, who do I want to speak with? Who do I want to engage with? How do I want to live my life? I think that intentionality is key to that.
Let's talk about your wife and your family for a moment, because you've got a strong unity in your household. You've been married for 20 years?
20 years.
Y'all were youngins, teenagers when you met, huh?
Well, we met in 98. So I moved here from Florence, South Carolina, because it's kind of like saying you're from Somerville, and from people who are off. People go, you normally say I'm from Charleston, right?
Yes.
So I'm from Pamplico, which is the middle of nowhere in Florence County. And I came here in 98 to go to CSU and met her playing in bands. So I played in a band and met her. So we actually got engaged, and we were engaged for 4 years before we got married. She lived in Columbia, went to Columbia College. I lived here, so it was like a long distance type relationship. And then we got married after 4 years. So it's been 24, almost 25 years that we've known each other.
You've grown up together, basically. So now you've got 3 kids together. The oldest one is about to graduate high school, correct?
He is.
All right, go off to the Citadel?
He wants to go to the Citadel.
How did he pick that?
So my father-in-law worked for the Citadel for a long time. We got married at the Citadel. My brother-in-law works at Citadel. My father and her grandfather were all in the military. And so he really wanted to kind of follow in their footsteps and go into the military. Mm-hmm.
One thing that, as I was wanting to kind of learn about that relationship that you have with her, one thing that she said about you, and I don't even know if you know this, but she says, he is kind, funny, stinking intelligent, hard-working, multi-talented, friendly, reflective, adventurous, and my rock. I think that summarizes the admiration that she has for you. How do you keep that relationship with your wife strong after 24, 25 years?
So I think it goes back to that word, being intentional. So one of the things that we try to do, there's a great book called The 5 Love Languages that we went through together. And then our church, just being intentional. I have a couple of really close guy friends who are Christians that we have kind of connected together on, well, how do we continue to do those things in our lives that make us intentional? And one of those things, especially in your relationship with your wife, is continuing to court her and go on dates and do those things. And it's tough when you have kids running around and jobs. And when I worked in Charleston County, leaving early, coming home late, it was tough. But you try to etch out that margin and make sure that you have enough of that to continue to have those dates and spend that time together.
Yeah, well, the intentional piece to any relationship has to be present on both sides, right? On both sides of it. I understand that you're close with your family as well, your mom and your in-laws and such. So what does that relationship look like, the extended family?
Yeah, so I'm a mama's boy, so I call my mama every night, and we have a little conversation about whatever she wants to talk about. Nice. And my sisters live in Florence as well, so one of them calls me once a week just to talk, and the other one, whenever she called me the other day just talking about nursing. She's a nurse up in Florence, and so we were talking about that. My father-in-law, after he worked for the Citadel, he's had kind of a side hustle where he does beekeeping for a long time.
Neat.
And he's had about 50 hives all across the Low Country. And so several years ago, I decided, you know what, I want to learn this from you. I want to figure out how to do this. And so we started doing that together. And then he had an unfortunate accident where he fell off a ladder, and he was like, all right, you're up. So that's when I got this deep dive. Actually, I'm going with Brad Mallett this weekend to help Brad do some bees over at his place. But just being able to spend time with them and enjoy getting to know who they are.
And learning from them.
Yeah.
Kind of what they've built, their knowledge from a lifetime, and for you to kind of take that and run with it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Beekeeping is it's a niche little community that you guys have.
It is.
You had mentioned to me previously that you're from Florence, South Carolina. Tell us about your upbringing. What parts of your upbringing have brought you to who you are today?
So I grew up on a small little tobacco farm in Florence County, and spent a ton of time with my grandfather. It was his farm. We lived about 10 acres away from each other. Grew up pretty poor. By the time I was there was no more tobacco. You had, it already farmed off to the big tobacco companies. So it really wasn't a tobacco farm at that point. But we did have multiple farm ponds. So every day he would go fishing in one of the ponds. And so I started going fishing with him. And then when he passed away, when I was in high school, we would sell clay to the Department of Transportation. So we had this huge hole in the ground for sand. And so they would hit these springs, and then we'd have a bunch of these little farm ponds. So I spent a ton of time just on our farm fishing and just swimming around and just having a good time in the woods with my friends. When I was in high school, buddies of mine, we started getting into music, and so we started playing in all different kinds of genres of music that we could possibly play in, from like jazz, R&B, blues. And then we moved to Charleston, we started playing more rock and roll stuff. So it was just fun growing up, being outdoors, and then coming to Charleston, being in the city. To me, it was like crazy trying to just fall asleep at night in the city because there's so many lights and sounds and stuff. But being able to come to the city and start playing in music, playing at Cumberland's, Village Tavern, Music Farm, just having a great time in college.
I did not know that about you. So you and I have that in common in terms of growing up in the backwoods country. So I grew up at the end of a dirt road in Birmingham, Alabama. I was Birmingham, but it was similar. It was definitely not Birmingham City. It was in the country. Lived in a cedar home, and hardworking parents, and they instilled in me a passion for hard work, community, but also, it was very adventurous, and you have that similar flair for life.
Yeah.
Y'all like outdoors
Yeah,
activities.
it was so much fun.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that growing up in the city, our kids miss a little bit of that arena. We have to go and find that that outdoors, that love. So once you were here, you got into political science, and then eventually it brought you to where you are today, at the YMCA. Let's talk about the YMCA, because they're an integral part of the community. As a realtor, I don't sell just houses. I'm selling a community. I get to introduce people to Somerville and the greater Charleston region, and we find where they want to build their house, where they want to build their home. And it's not just the four walls that they're living in. It is the greater sense of community. So let's talk about the YMCA and how they play a big part into the Somerville community as a whole.
Yeah, so actually, the way I even got to the YMCA, I did do political science in college, but I actually came to Charleston Southern to be a pastor, and ended up somehow falling into politics and did that for a long time. And it was my sense of community and really wanting to get back. So my mother worked in the Housing Authority of Florence, and so I wanted to just be a good Christian in government. And so that's how I got into the political side. But then after that season of my life changed, the YMCA just really spoke to me about what its mission in our community is. And it's Young Men's Christian Association. And I think sometimes we have lost that focus with the YMCA. And I really wanted to come back and kind of change what that's supposed to be and how that's supposed to look, especially for just Somerville. So coming to Somerville, I had lived here for a long time, since '98, and I wanted to kind of get out of the rat race of Charleston and come back and just be able to do something in my community where I live, work, and play. Mm-hmm. And I saw that on display with the staff at the YMCA, because they were already doing some of that. And so I just wanted to kind of come alongside and branch that out for Somerville. And so the YMCA has this unique ability, and we're trying to harness that voice right now to make Somerville a better place. We have, most people know us, you've got the swim pools and you've got the gym, and they bring their kids to recreational sports, but there's so much more that we offer than just that. We have a whole community health side, a volunteerism side that people probably don't know about. And then most people probably think that the Flower Town Festival is like the town's festival that they do. But we do that, and we've done it for 50 years. Mm-hmm. And that festival helps us do those things in the community.
There's a lot of programs, support groups. If you go into the YMCA, I was a member for many, many years up there. My kids were raised in the children's programs that the YMCA offered, and you'll find groups meeting up there and having devotionals and just the strength behind the relationship building. There's more than just the Flower Town Fest. I mean, we're going to talk about that because that is a big production that y'all host, but you just got done with the Shamrock Shuffle Run, which was a great community event, the 5K. Let's see, you've got a gala coming up as well. So all of these things help support what your missions are there at the Y.
Yeah, it's some of those missions, you're exactly right. Like, we used to have a prayer breakfast that we did every year. We stopped doing that in 2016. This year's going to be our first one back.
Good.
So I've been working with David Powell over at Bethany United Methodist to bring that back, and we're going to have that in early May. Dr. Costin from CSU, my alum, he's coming out there. So it's going to be a great opportunity to kind of turn our focus back on the community. You're right, we do have a ton of programs. So we have, especially in just community health, right? There's so many things, and I think COVID, again, if there's any silver lining to that craziness that we went through, it's people started focusing more on, well, what does health mean to me, and how can I be intentional with my health? Because if you don't do that, it's like our church, we talk about these 5 pillars of life, right? I mean, obviously there's spiritual, there's financial, there's relational, but one of those is physical. And if you don't have that physical piece, then the other ones kind of really don't matter, because if you're sick and you can't do things, then you don't care about those other ones. It can't feed into it. So the YMCA is kind of putting into that physical pillar, making sure that, like pre-diabetic programs, we have those, and they're free. You don't have to be a member to participate in those. High blood pressure screenings, we will go out to your community and do these things. Our territory, and most people don't know, I didn't know this until I came back, our territory is all of Colleton and Dorchester counties. Well, we've just been centered here in Somerville for forever, and we've not had that reach outside of the Somerville area. So right now, we're actively moving up into the St. George area, nice. Ridgeville, Harleyville, Reevesville, that side of town, to really focus on, well, what do those folks need that we can offer?
Yeah, I didn't realize that. So that's great. That's great, kind of expanding that reach out. So thinking about health and fitness, I'm a couple of blocks away from the YMCA, and here I'm sitting here waiting on you, and sure enough, here you come walking up. So you're living that lifestyle of just being out in the breath of fresh air, that the spring has to offer us. But so you came walking up, and I loved that. I put a big smile on my face, because how easy is it for most of us just to jump in our car, even though it's a couple of blocks away. So you certainly fuel that fire within the YMCA of health and wellness, but you're also bringing that into the community, into Dorchester County in the way of expansion of parks and recreation.
Yeah, so probably something that's not well known is I was the first election director for Dorchester County that did not exist before I took that job in 2008. And so I worked for the county as their election director for several years. And then as I moved to the Charleston Election Commission, a lot of the county council members are friends of mine. So Bill Hearn appointed me to that commission 12 years ago. It was a passion for me because, like we were talking, growing up on a farm, I had access to water. I had access to trails. I had access to all that stuff. When I came here, unless you have land or access to the Ashley or Edisto rivers, you don't see them that often. And so I thought, this is not good for our community if we don't have these areas. And so over that 12-year period of time, it took us 10 years before we built Ashley River Park. And just going through those referenda, going through the meetings, Eric Davis was our first parks director, and he and I remember going to Harleyville and Ridgeville and just speaking to the community about, hey, this is what we can bring to you. And so having that reach on the county side and just doing the Pine Trace groundbreaking is just so amazing, because there's so many folks in that area around Greenhurst, around the Ashley River Park. There's another park that people didn't even know that we had called Texas Community Park, which is up near St. George. It's kind of going back towards Walterboro. Just putting the money back into those places, giving the community a place to go out and exercise and get to be in nature. Just super passionate about that in my life.
Yeah, well, as a community member, I appreciate the work and the vision that you are doing and participating in and bringing to light just the opportunity for not only me and my family, but really those that I'm helping serve as they move into this community or already live here as well. The families that I get to work with, they're looking for that opportunity. A lot of people move here because of the weather. They want to enjoy that outdoor space. And so the gift is that the county's doing. It really is a gift that y'all are providing to us as a community.
And what if we could have more?
Yeah,
right?
It's always reach for more.
So just like taking that walk, right? So every day, I guess around 5 o'clock, I'm working out in the gym downtown or taking a walk around Brownsville. And it is so super nice just to take a walk on a nice day like today. Like it's really been a great day today. Just take a walk. But when I take that walk at 5, sometimes I handle some phone calls that I have to handle as I'm walking around. But sometimes I'm just walking by myself being silent. And there are people all throughout the community who'll just stop and talk to you. And you're just walking down a random street, right?
Yeah.
Which is so nice. You just don't get that in a lot of places, right? So you can walk downtown Charleston, which is great and it's beautiful. But people aren't stopping and talking to you.
Yeah.
But here, they stop and talk to you, and you get to know everybody, and then you see them. Like last night at Third Thursday, right? So James Brown's boiled peanuts. I don't know super great guy. And he was like, I didn't even see him. I was just walking through the crowd, and he was like, "Hey Joe, stop! Come over here and let's talk for a minute." And so we talked for like 15 minutes, and we met each other at the Flowertown Festival last year, and he just the fact that he remembered who I was, and we were talking and just remembering things from last year and having those conversations, it's just a great thing to be in Somerville. Yeah.
Well, what was it? Just last week, I saw you 2 days in a row, one, I think in a coffee shop and then over at Eclectic Chef. But that is Somerville as a whole, like just being able to walk in and you never know who you're going to see, but people want to stop and they want to talk and they want a relationship build and just unite in the fact that we have a passion and a love for our community.
And there are people in our community who have built that, right? Like Brad Mallett.
Oh, yeah.
A New Yorker coming down to Somerville, and you go into Coastal Coffee, right? You see everybody of Somerville.
He's created a place for community, and he's proud of it. The YMCA has created a place for community, and y'all are making sure that you do the legwork and the hard work. I mean, I know it's exhausting running all of these different fundraisers and such. We love it. Yeah, I mean, especially that Flowertown Festival. We're looking forward to that here in a couple of weeks. Hopefully the azaleas will still be in bloom. I can't remember the last time we actually had flowers blooming during. It's usually a storm or cold weather, something will zap them. But hopefully we'll continue to have that beautiful backdrop. But really, the streets are filled with vendors from all over the Southeast. It's the biggest festival, I believe, within the Southeast, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember how many years ago it was. We were called like the largest arts and crafts festival in the Southeast.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we are looking forward to it. So thank you and the rest of your team over at the YMCA for putting that on year after year, 50 years in a row, as you had made mention of it. So we have a lot to look forward to this spring within our community, and I'm glad that you were willing to come on and share kind of some of your story. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we tap out?
Just about my staff. Those ladies are amazing, and all the work that they do behind the scenes to just make the YMCA a better place. Without them, there would be no YMCA.
It is most certainly teamwork.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they pour into that. From the child care to every division of the Y. That's I've never worked up there, but as I mentioned before, I've been there for many, many years in the past, and that's what I think about when I think about the Y is the people that love what they do and they love being a part of it. So good. Well, thank them for all their hard work as well. Thanks for joining us today. We really hit on some strong topics today with Joe Debney, hallmarks of a good marriage, the services of the YMCA and how they're creating a space for our community, and the many events that they have upcoming this spring. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.